As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the battlefield with fire and shadow, the human stood tall amidst the wreckage, victorious but not arrogant, calm but alert, his energy glowing faintly, a sign of his power and readiness. The alien woman could not move, could not speak. She was rooted to the spot by awe, anticipation, and a strange pull toward this human who had changed everything. And as night fell, she watched him, knowing that the battles ahead would be even more dangerous, more suspenseful, and more legendary than anything she had ever seen. The battlefield was silent, broken only by the faint crackle of energy and the distant moans of injured soldiers. The human stood tall, his breathing steady, surveying the destruction he had wrought. He had faced the army, broken them, and yet the air felt heavy with tension. The young alien woman watched from her hidden vantage point, her hands gripping the edge of the rock. She felt her pulse race, knowing the human's work was not yet done. Suddenly, a shadow moved at the far edge of the battlefield, darker and larger than anything the woman had seen before. Its energy pulsed like a heartbeat, low and threatening, sending shivers down her spine. The human turned slightly, sensing the shift in the air, his eyes narrowing. He had faced armies, war machines, generals. Yet something about this presence felt different, more dangerous, more alive. From the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked in energy that flickered like fire. Its movements were swift and deliberate, almost like it could anticipate the human's every move. Soldiers who had survived the earlier battle stumbled backward, fear flashing in their eyes. Even they could feel the power radiating from this new threat. The young woman's heart pounded. She could not tear her eyes away, knowing that this figure was unlike anything the human had faced so far. The figure spoke, its voice echoing across the battlefield, calm but terrifying. "You have destroyed my army, human, but now you will face me." Its words carried a weight, a promise of danger and power that made the air itself seem heavy. The human took a slow step forward, his eyes focused, his body calm. He had faced impossible odds before, yet this was something entirely new, something that would test not just his strength, but his mind and spirit. Without warning, the figure charged, faster than the eye could follow, energy arcs trailing from his movements. The human met the attack head-on, dodging, blocking, and countering with fluidity that was almost unreal. Sparks flew as their energy collided, shaking the ground beneath them. Soldiers scattered, watching in fear and awe as the two forces clashed. The woman held her breath, unable to look away, her heart racing with excitement and suspense. The figure was strong, far stronger than any individual soldier or even a general had been. Its attacks were relentless, precise, designed to overwhelm and crush. The human moved like water, slipping through attacks, using his own energy to deflect and counter. Each strike was calculated, yet each carried the danger, one mistake ending everything. The young woman's eyes widened. She had never seen such skill, such danger, such suspense in all her life. The battlefield seemed alive, responding to the power of the clash. Dust and energy swirled in tornadoes, flashes of light blinding those who watched. The human twisted and leapt, barely dodging a crushing blow that sent a shock wave through the air. He countered, striking a precise point on the enemy's armor, yet the figure barely flinched, its movements smooth, controlled, and terrifying. The suspense was unbearable, each second stretching into eternity. The human's calm resolve never wavered. His mind raced as he analyzed, anticipated, and adapted. Each move of the figure became a puzzle, and he solved it with brilliant precision. Yet the danger remained, lurking with every step. The young woman could feel the suspense wrapping around her like a storm. She leaned forward, unable to turn away, knowing that the next moments could change everything. Suddenly, the figure released a massive pulse of energy, knocking the human back, throwing him to the ground. The earth cracked beneath the force. Soldiers shielded themselves from the blast. The woman gasped, her chest tight. For the first time, she wondered if the human might actually be defeated. But he rose, brushing off dust and rubble, his eyes glowing faintly with determination and power. He did not run. He did not hesitate. He faced the threat with unshakable courage, ready to fight. Again, the figure circled him like a predator, measuring, calculating, testing the human's limits. "You are strong," it said, voice low and dangerous. "But you are not enough." The human smiled faintly, a spark of strategy and defiance in his eyes. He had faced impossible odds before, and he knew this was just another challenge, another opportunity to prove that humanity could endure, could adapt, could overcome. The young woman's chest heaved as she watched, captivated by the suspense, the danger, the human's courage. Every clash, every dodge, every strike seemed to echo through her very being. The battlefield was no longer just a place of war. It had become a stage for something legendary. She felt her pulse race, knowing that the next moments would decide the fate of everyone present, soldiers, enemies. Even she herself were powerless to intervene. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the destroyed battlefield, the human stood victorious, exhausted yet unbowed, his energy aura fading gently. Calm but alert, the alien woman stepped forward, unable to resist the pull she felt toward him, her eyes locked on his, filled with awe and something deeper, something she had not felt before. This was a hero, a human who had faced impossible odds and survived, who had proven that courage and skill could overcome anything. And in that quiet moment, as the defeated enemy watched from afar and the dust settled over the broken battlefield, the human's eyes met hers, a silent promise of protection, strength, and hope. The suspense of the moment lingered, thick and thrilling, as she realized that the story was far from over, and that together they would face whatever came next. The battlefield was quiet now, the smoke and dust settling into the stillness of night. The human stood among the broken soldiers and shattered war machines, his breathing calm, though his body was weary from the battle. Energy pulsed faintly around him, a quiet glow that marked the end of chaos and the beginning of something else. The young alien woman stepped forward, her footsteps hesitant yet determined, her eyes never leaving his, filled with awe, admiration, and something deeper that had grown through the battles she had witnessed. She had watched him face impossible odds, break armies, and fight forces beyond imagination, and now, seeing him standing there, victorious and unshaken, her heart felt as though it would leap from her chest. The wind carried a faint scent of scorched earth and energy, mixing with the quiet calm of the night. Every sound, every movement seemed amplified, drawing her closer to him. She wanted to speak, to say something, but words felt too small, too fragile for the moment. The human turned his gaze toward her, a faint smile crossing his lips, calm, warm, and protective. It was a smile that held understanding, courage, and reassurance, as if he could feel all she felt, and yet did not need her to speak it. The alien woman took a deep breath, gathering her courage, and finally stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Her hand hovered for a moment, trembling, before she placed it gently against his chest, feeling the strength and warmth beneath her touch. He did not move away. Instead, he opened his arms slowly, inviting, protective, a gesture that spoke louder than words. She let herself step fully into him, resting her head lightly against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her. It was a moment of calm after chaos, a moment of safety after endless danger. She felt a mixture of relief, admiration, and something more, something unspoken yet undeniable. Around them, the battlefield seemed to fade, the defeated soldiers, broken machines, and shattered energy falling into silence. The human held her firmly, yet gently, his presence a fortress against the uncertainty of the world. The young alien woman looked up at him, her eyes glistening with emotion, realizing that in his strength, his courage, and his determination, she had found something she had not expected, something she could not ignore. "You are incredible," she whispered, her voice soft, trembling, but full of meaning. He smiled faintly, pressing his forehead gently against hers, and said nothing, for words were unnecessary. The battles had spoken for him. Each strike, each victory, each act of courage had told a story better than any speech ever could. The suspense of war was gone, replaced by the quiet thrill of connection, understanding, and trust. The night sky above them stretched endlessly, stars twinkling faintly as though applauding the human who had stood against impossible odds. The alien woman felt a warmth in her chest, a light that had grown through fear, suspense, and awe, now blooming into something stronger, something personal. The human held her tighter, yet gently, his calm aura a shield against the remnants of danger still lingering on the battlefield. For a long moment, they stood there, still and quiet, amidst the ruins of war. She could feel every heartbeat, every breath, and every pulse of energy that marked him as extraordinary, not just a warrior, but a protector, a hero, a human who had surpassed all limits. And in that embrace, she felt the truth of humanity's courage, resilience, and heart, shining brighter than any weapon, any army, any enemy ever could. Finally, She pulled back slightly, her eyes still locked with his, and smiled, a mixture of relief, admiration, and something more intimate. The human returned the smile, calm, reassuring, as though saying without words that this was only the beginning, that together they could face any challenge, any enemy, any storm. She felt the suspense and danger of the battles fade, replaced by hope, warmth, and connection. As the night deepened and stars filled the sky, she stepped fully into his arms, and he held her, strong and unshaken. The battlefield behind him seemed like a distant memory, the past of chaos and fear replaced by the present of safety and trust. And in that quiet, beautiful moment, the young alien woman knew she had witnessed greatness, not just in battle, but in the heart of a human who had shown courage, skill, and strength beyond measure. And so, together, they stood amidst the ruins in the quiet of the night, a human and an alien, bound by awe, respect, and the beginnings of something more. Their story of courage, suspense, and extraordinary heroism complete for now, yet hinting at adventures and challenges still to come. A story of humanity standing tall against all odds, and a connection that blossomed even in the heart of war. The wind howled across the barren battlefield, carrying dust and ash that burned the eyes of anyone who dared to enter. The horizon was a strange mix of fire and smoke, the remnants of a recent skirmish scattered across the land. A young alien woman stood atop a jagged rock, her eyes wide with both fear and curiosity. She could see the human far below, a lone figure walking steadily toward an army that seemed impossible to defeat. The army was massive, thousands of soldiers with shining armor and weapons that glowed with energy. Their movements were precise, disciplined, and deadly. But something about the human did not make them pause. They did not slow their march, nor did they hesitate. He walked as if the battlefield itself feared him. His steps were calm, almost casual. Yet each footfall seemed to echo with quiet power. The woman's heart pounded in her chest. She had seen warriors before, strong fighters who could destroy whole squads, but none had ever made her feel this mix of awe and fear. There was something different about this human, something beyond mere strength. She clenched her fists, holding herself back from stepping down into the battlefield. She wanted to see what would happen. She wanted to see if he could really survive. Suddenly, the army noticed him. Their leader raised a massive weapon, its tip glowing with bright energy. The soldiers shouted commands in unison, their voices booming across the plain. Attack! They screamed, their confidence unshakable. They believed one human could never stand against them. They believed victory was already theirs. The human paused for a moment, scanning the advancing army. His eyes were sharp, almost piercing, like he could see through every soldier's thoughts. He raised his hand slightly, and the air around him shimmered with faint, strange glow. The energy was subtle but visible, a quiet warning to those who dared come close. The soldiers faltered for a fraction of a second, confused by the calm in his presence. Then the clash began. The first wave of soldiers ran toward him, weapons raised, ready to strike. The human moved like lightning, faster than anyone could follow. He dodged and twisted with ease, every movement precise, every strike calculated, one by one. Soldiers fell, not just to his strength, but to his skill and speed. The woman's eyes widened as she watched. She had never seen combat like this, not even in her training. The battlefield was chaotic. Explosions of energy lighting up the sky. Shouts and screams filled the air. But the human did not panic. He was calm, almost serene, as he faced wave after wave of attackers. Even when the enemy tried to flank him, to surround him, he anticipated their moves, breaking their lines before they could even touch him. The army that had seemed invincible moments ago now looked weak and disorganized. The woman felt a strange feeling deep inside her. It was admiration mixed with disbelief. She had never imagined that a human could possess such power. Yet here he was, alone and unstoppable. She could not look away. She was drawn to him, her heart racing not just from fear, but from fascination. The energy around him pulsed faintly, as if the battlefield itself was alive, responding to his presence. Then, a shadow moved at the edge of the battlefield, a massive figure, larger and more terrifying than any soldier she had ever seen. The enemy general stepped forward, his armor dark and jagged, his eyes glowing with a dangerous light. The soldiers behind him faltered, sensing the human's calm focus. The woman realized that the real test was about to begin. This was not just a battle of strength, but a battle of courage, of will, and she could not look away. The humans' gaze locked with the generals, and a silent challenge passed between them. The wind seemed to stop, the battlefield holding its breath. The woman's heart thudded in her chest. She could sense the energy building, a storm of power about to erupt. She stepped back instinctively, feeling both fear and anticipation. She knew that what she was about to witness would change her forever. And then, with a calm step forward, the human moved toward the army, his presence like a beacon of courage. The soldiers charged again, but he was ready. He was not just fighting for survival. He was showing the world what it meant to be human, to face impossible odds and stand tall. The woman's eyes filled with awe as she watched, knowing that this was only the beginning. The battle was not yet over, but already she knew she would never forget this moment. The lone human, calm and powerful, walking into the storm, ready to face an entire army. She felt a shiver run through her body, not from cold, but from excitement, from anticipation, from the understanding that she was witnessing something extraordinary. And as the human raised his hand again, a subtle glow surrounding him, the woman leaned forward, unable to tear her eyes away. She had come to see a warrior, but she was seeing something more, a force, a legend in the making. The army could not know what waited for them, but she did, and she would remember it forever. The battlefield trembled as the first wave of soldiers surged forward, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The human stood alone, calm and focused, as if he were the eye of a storm. Each step he took was deliberate, measured, and confident. His eyes scanned the enemy, reading their movements before they even made them. The young alien woman watched from her vantage point, her hands gripping the jagged rock beneath her. Her heart raced with fear, excitement, and an odd sense of admiration. The soldiers shouted as they closed in, their voices a chorus of hatred and confidence. They believed that numbers alone could crush any individual. They did not notice the subtle shimmer of energy surrounding the human, a faint glow that pulsed with his heartbeat. As they attacked, the human moved, his body a blur of speed and precision. Each strike he made was perfect, targeting weak points, knocking enemies off balance, and leaving a trail of chaos in his wake. She gasped as he spun and kicked, taking down 3 soldiers at once. Their weapons clattered to the ground, and their bodies fell in tangled heaps. The army had trained for years, yet they could not match him. Every movement seemed effortless, but there was a raw power behind it that made her skin tingle. The air around him hummed with energy, and she could feel it from where she stood. It was not magic, not in the way she knew, but something far greater, something human. A cannon roared from the enemy lines, sending a wave of destructive energy toward him. Soldiers charged behind the blast, hoping to overwhelm him in confusion. The human leapt forward with incredible speed, dodging the attack, and landing in the middle of the enemy lines. He moved like a shadow, striking with precision, and disappearing before anyone could respond. The woman's eyes widened, unable to follow him completely. Every second seemed impossible, yet he was alive, unharmed, and unstoppable. Then a soldier lunged at him from the side, massive and armored like a mountain. The human grabbed the soldier's weapon mid-swing, twisting and throwing him into a group of others. The sound of metal crashing echoed across the battlefield, and for a moment the army hesitated, confused by his skill. The woman felt her pulse quicken. She had never seen anyone fight like this, not even in her world's greatest warriors. The enemy general watched from afar, his expression darkening. The human was breaking their formations, scattering soldiers, and turning the tide before the battle had truly begun. He raised his massive weapon and charged toward the human, energy sparks flying with every step. The soldiers behind him yelled warnings, urging him to be careful, but the human did not flinch. He met the charge with steady eyes, ready to face whatever came next. Suddenly, a loud explosion tore the battlefield, sending dust and debris into the air. Soldiers screamed as energy blasts tore apart the ground around him. The human leapt into the air, landing in the middle of the chaos. His movements were a dance of precision and power. Every enemy that came close fell to his skill. Yet he showed no rage, no anger, only calm determination, as if he had been born to face impossible odds. The woman felt a strange pull in her chest, a mix of fear and admiration. She could see the faint smile on his lips, the same smile of someone who knew he could not fail. The human was not just fighting for survival. He was sending a message, showing that courage and skill could overcome anything. The soldiers tried to regroup, forming a wall of energy shields, hoping to corner him. but the human anticipated their moves, slipping past the fences like water flowing through cracks. The air was thick with tension as the human stood in the middle of the broken army lines, his breathing calm, his eyes scanning for the next attack. The soldiers hesitated, unsure what to do. Their confidence was shaken, their fear growing with every second. The woman could feel the suspense building in the air. She leaned forward, unable to look away, knowing that this battle would be remembered for generations. Then, from the back of the battlefield, a massive war machine rolled forward, larger than anything she had ever seen. Its energy cannons glowed like suns ready to incinerate everything in their path. The human did not flinch. He walked calmly toward it, his shadow stretching across the ground. The soldiers gasped, expecting him to be destroyed. Yet he reached the machine, leapt onto its hull, and with a few swift movements, disabled it completely. The crowd of soldiers watching from the sidelines began to panic, realizing that one human had turned the tide of the battle entirely. The woman felt her heart pounding, her eyes glistening with awe. She realized that she was witnessing not just a fight, but a legend being forged. Every move, every strike, every calculated step showed the strength of humanity, the courage to stand alone against impossible odds. And as the dust settled, the battlefield silent for a moment. She knew the human's journey had only just begun. A faint, dangerous energy shimmered in the distance, hinting that greater threats were waiting. The suspense hung in the air, electric and thick. The woman could not wait to see what would happen next. She felt both fear and excitement, knowing the story of this human was far from over, and she stayed, watching silently, as the battlefield seemed to hold its breath, ready for tea. The battlefield was quiet for a moment, the dust hanging in the air like a heavy curtain. Soldiers stumbled over debris, trying to regroup, but the human stood in the middle of the chaos, calm and unshakable. His eyes scanned the horizon, noting every movement, every shadow, every possible threat. The young alien woman watched from afar, her hands pressed to her chest. She could feel the tension in the air, the weight of what was about to happen. From the edge of the battlefield, the enemy general emerged, taller and more imposing than anyone she had ever seen. His armor gleamed like black steel under the fiery sky, his eyes burning with a dangerous red light. He carried a massive energy blade that hummed with power, capable of slicing through anything in its path. The human did not move, did not flinch. He waited, his calm presence daring the general to strike. The soldiers behind the general cheered, hoping their leader would finally end the human's defiance. But the human only tightened his stance, his muscles coiled like a spring ready to release. The alien woman felt a chill run down her spine. The energy between the two warriors was electric, almost alive. The ground seemed to vibrate with the tension of their silent standoff. Suddenly, the general charged, his blade swinging in a deadly arc. The human dodged effortlessly, sidestepping with speed that made him almost invisible. Sparks flew as metal met air, and the soldiers gasped, unable to believe their eyes. He countered with a strike that knocked the general back several feet, but the general recovered quickly, anger flashing in his eyes. This was not just a fight of strength. It was a battle of wits, strategy, and raw courage. The woman's heart raced as she watched them circle each other, both moving faster than the eye could follow. Every step, every strike, every dodge was perfect. The battlefield itself seemed to pause, as if it knew something monumental was unfolding. Dust swirled around them, hiding their movements, but the human always seemed to know where the general would strike next. Then, the general unleashed a wave of energy from his blade, sweeping across the battlefield. Soldiers screamed as they were thrown off their feet. Their shields were useless against the force. The human jumped into the air, spinning, twisting, and landing perfectly in the center of the enemy's formation. With a few swift strikes, he took down a dozen soldiers, leaving the battlefield in chaos once more. The woman could not tear her eyes away. She felt her breath catch in her throat. The human skill was unmatched, but more than that, there was a fearless determination in him, a refusal to fail. The general roared in frustration, swinging his blade with more fury than ever. Each strike was stronger, faster, more dangerous, yet the human anticipated them all, countering, dodging, and striking with precision, never missing, never slowing. The soldiers behind the general began to lose hope. Seeing their strongest warriors struggle against one human shook their confidence. Murmurs ran through the ranks, their once unshakable morale now fragile. The woman could feel the suspense building, every second stretching into eternity. She realized the human was not just fighting for survival, he was changing the course of the battle itself, turning despair into hope with every move. Suddenly, the ground beneath the general cracked, a deep rumble shaking the battlefield. The human had triggered a hidden energy trap buried long ago, sending waves of force toward the enemy. The general stumbled, losing his footing, but he recovered, anger flashing bright at his eyes. He raised his blade higher, summoning a surge of power that made the air around him shimmer. His strength was immense, yet the human met it with calm resolve. The clash was explosive, metal striking metal, energy colliding with energy. The sky above seemed to split with light and sound. Soldiers shielded their eyes, unsure where to look. The woman's heart pounded. She could feel the suspense cutting through her, sharp and thrilling. She had never seen anything like this. The human was more than a fighter. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and brilliant. For a moment, it seemed the general would finally overpower him. The energy blade swung down, faster than anyone could follow. The human dodged at the last second, spinning around the general, striking his side, knocking him to one knee. Dust and sparks flew in the air. The battlefield was silent for a heartbeat. Everyone froze in anticipation. The woman's eyes widened as the human stood over the general, breathing calmly, unshaken. His aura glowed faintly, a sign of power and control. The general snarled, trying to rise, but the human pressed forward, forcing him back. Every move he made was flawless, a combination of strength, speed, and intelligence that left no room for error. The soldiers began to retreat, realizing their leader could not win today. And yet, the general's eyes glowed with a dark promise, hinting at dangers yet unseen. The human turned his gaze to the horizon, ready for whatever came next. The woman felt her pulse racing. She knew this was only the beginning, that greater challenges lay ahead, but she could not look away. She was drawn to the human's courage, his skill, and the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from him. As the sun set behind the battlefield, casting long shadows, the human stood tall, victorious in this clash. But the tension did not fade. The enemy was broken, but the war was not over. The suspense lingered in the air, thick and electric. The woman took a deep breath, knowing she had witnessed something extraordinary, something that would echo through history, and she waited, eager to see what the next battle would bring. The next clash. The battlefield was littered with the fallen, smoke curling from destroyed weapons and scorched earth. The soldiers who remained were shaken, their formation broken, morale shattered. They had believed in their numbers, in their training, in their weapons, yet none of it mattered against a lone human. The young alien woman watched from her hidden perch, her hands trembling with excitement and fear. She could not tear her eyes away from the human as he moved through the chaos with terrifying precision. The human did not run or hide. He did not hesitate or panic. Every movement was deliberate, every strike calculated. He ducked under swinging blades, deflected energy beams, and used the enemy's own attacks against them, one by one. Soldiers felt his skill, not just their strength, and the ground itself seemed to bend to his presence. He moved like a storm, unstoppable and relentless, and yet there was a calmness in him that made the chaos around him seem almost orderly. The alien woman gasped as he leapt into a group of heavily armored warriors, using their own energy shields as weapons against them. Sparks flew and metal clanged, soldiers screaming as they fell. Her heart pounded with awe and disbelief. She had never imagined that one human could possess such speed, such intelligence, such raw power. Each move seemed impossible, yet he executed them effortlessly, leaving behind a battlefield that looked like a scene from legend. From the rear, the enemy general shouted orders, trying to rally his soldiers. "Hold your ground. Do not let him break us." His voice was loud, filled with rage and disbelief. But his soldiers hesitated, their confidence gone. The human anticipated their moves, slipping between attacks, disabling weapons with a flick of his hand, and breaking through walls of armored soldiers as if they were made of paper. The woman felt her pulse racing. She realized that this human was not just winning a battle. He was rewriting the rules of war, showing that courage and skill could overcome any force. Suddenly, a massive war machine appeared on the horizon, its glowing cannons turning toward the human, ready to crush everything in its path. Soldiers scrambled to defend it, hoping it would finally stop him. The human did not falter. His eyes glimmered with quiet determination, and he ran toward it, faster than the eye could follow, leaping onto the machine, dodging the powerful blasts, and dismantling its core with precise strikes. Sparks erupted into the air, the machine groaning as it collapsed in a heap of smoke and fire. The alien woman's mouth fell open. She could not believe what she was seeing. The soldiers' morale crumbled completely. Fear replaced their confidence. Panic spread like wildfire, and the human pressed forward, unstoppable, relentless. Each step he took was a statement, a message that no army, no matter how vast, could crush human determination. The battlefield echoed with the sounds of destruction, the cries of the defeated, and the hum of the human's energy as he moved. The young woman's heart beat faster with every second. She had never felt such suspense, such awe, such a mix of fear and admiration. Then the general, seeing his army falter, charged directly at the human, energy blade raised high, ready to strike him down. Soldiers scattered behind him, hoping their leader could finish what they had failed to do. But the human met him head-on, dodging, countering, and striking with a combination of speed and intelligence that left the general struggling. Sparks flew, dust rose, and the battlefield became a blur of motion. The alien woman's eyes widened. She could barely follow the movements, each faster than the last, each more deadly. For a moment, the general gained ground, pushing the human back, his strength immense, his skill unmatched by any ordinary soldier. But the human smiled faintly, a spark of strategy flashing in his eyes. With a sudden burst of speed, he slipped behind the general, striking a precise point that sent the massive warrior crashing to the ground. Dust and sparks filled the air as the general struggled to rise, but he could not regain control. His army was broken, his power diminished. The soldiers who remained surrendered, dropping their weapons, their faces filled with fear and disbelief. The battlefield fell silent, save for the human's calm breathing and the faint hum of residual energy around him. The young alien woman felt a shiver run through her body, a mix of awe, fear, and admiration. She had watched one human break an entire army, defy impossible odds, and claim victory alone. The suspense of the moment lingered, thick and electric, as she realized that something even greater waited on the horizon. The general, though defeated, glared up at the human with eyes full of dark promise, hinting that this victory was only temporary, that the true battle, the real danger, had yet to come. The human did not look away, his gaze steady, calm, unshakable. He was ready for whatever the enemy had left, whatever threat lurked in the shadows. The woman could feel the suspense gripping her chest, knowing that the story was far from over, and that she had only witnessed the first chapter of something extraordinary,